Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of DevDrawer. Today is going to be the final episode for this set of tutorials. Today we're going to be kind of going over how to utilize the shortcodes that we created in the last tutorial, as well as how to display custom columns in the administration panel using TypeRocket. We're going to get into some of the TypeRocket custom routes so we can display those shortcodes. We're going to create a single and an archive page for our custom post type. And essentially we're just going to finish out creating this custom theme, so that way it'll be ready for like an export that we'll cover in the next tutorial video. So let's go ahead and get started. One other thing that I want to do is create a column that displays the position and the hire date of the employee. So I'm going to go back over here. So we got our edit employees here. If we click on employees, it just says John Doe and the date. So what I want to do here instead is to add a filter that displays the columns in the direction that we want to have them displayed in. So let's come over here and we're going to add a filter. So add filter, and we're going to call it manage employees post columns. That is a very specific name because manage post columns is WordPress specific. Only thing that we changed is the post type name, but you would need to put in whatever your post type name is here because the rest of it has to stay the same. So just keep that in mind whenever you're doing it. And then we're fixing to create a function called DevDrawer employees columns. Okay, so now let's create that function called function, and we're just going to copy this and actually create the function. And inside of that, we're going to pass a variable called columns, and it's an array. And inside of this array, we're going to pass in the columns that we want to have. So the first thing that you always need to have is the CB, which is the checkbox. I mean, you don't always need to have it, but just in case you're wondering if you ever done a column and your checkbox disappeared, it's because you didn't put the CB back into it. And then we're going to pass the title. So this is going to be the name, and then we're going to pass the position. Actually, instead of having this, let's do name. And then we're going to pass position as the title for this column. And then we're going to pass hired date as the title for this column. And then finally, we're going to do date. Okay, so close out our array, and we're going to unset any additional columns that come default with WordPress. So columns like author, we're going to go ahead and remove that one, and we're going to come over here and we're also going to unset the comments because we don't care, because this isn't going to be something that is public. So then let's return columns. Okay, so now let's refresh this page, and you see that we now have the name, the position, and the hire date. Currently blank because now we need to pass the values that we're getting from our post type into this. So we're going to add action, which is another function of WordPress, and we're going to pass manage. Again, this is very specific naming, employees post custom column. And then we're going to create the function called DevDrawer employees show columns. Okay, so now we need to create that function. Copy this, gonna pass the column name to it. So column name. And up here also I want to pass the columns just in case. It's probably the reason why the author and the comments weren't showing up in the first place, because I was essentially creating the column array on the fly without passing the array to it. Okay, so we got our column name, and we're going to pass the global post so that we can access that. If column underscore name equals what do we call it? Position, P-O-S-I-T-I-O-N. Then we're going to echo the title or the position, which you can grab just by copying and pasting. Like I said, you could do that earlier. And then let's end our if. End if. Then we're going to copy this. We're going to paste it down. We're going to do the same thing for hire date. So hire date. Take this and copy it down. Okay. So now if we go back to employees and do a refresh. I didn't return it. No, I don't need to return it. Column name, hire date, TR post field, hire date, so position, global post, we pass in the column name, and we called it show columns, manage employees, post custom column. Why is that not working? So make sure we have that information filled out, and we do. Column name equals position, so P-O-S-I-T-I-O-N, hire date, hire date. Let's see, if column name equals position, I go end if. Okay, let's check add action manage, not manage, and we're going to come back over here. Now it should work. Alright, there we go. So we got the position and the hire date. So make sure your spelling is correct, because apparently mine is terrible today. Alright, so I think for the time being we are done with our employees custom post type. So now we need to create a page for it. So if we go to edit here, and we can right click and open this in a new tab, it says it's not found because we need to save our permalinks. So let's open this up, and we're just, you don't have to update them, you just hit save, and now refresh, that permalink is active. But this is being displayed on the single page that's used for the blog. So what we want to do inside of here is we want to create a new single page that looks very similar to not that click too many times. Let me get rid of these for a second. So we want to create, where'd he go? Single. Alright, so one thing I'm going to do in one of the next tutorials, I'm going to make it where my my sidebar over here works a little bit better, so I don't have to do this kind of thing. So I'm going to come over here and do new file, and we're going to do single dash employees, because that is what we called it, .php. And remember last week I told you whenever you want to create a new single or an archive page, you have to create single dash whatever you're wanting to change it into. Same thing with the archives. So for our single employee and our single, they're going to be very similar, except this one's not going to have a sidebar. So we're going to take out the sidebar, and we're also going to remove the comments from it, and the rest of it can stay the same. So now if we save that, and let's close out of our permalinks, refresh this, now it has its own page that we can control, whereas the hello world, which is the blog article, still has its sidebar. Okay, so let's come back over here, and inside of this I want to display some of this data that we're getting. So we have the position right here. We're going to say PHP echo, and then we're just going to echo out that position. Close this, and let's say position equals that, add a break tag underneath it, and then hire date equals this. And we're going to copy and paste, so PHP echo, and then we're going to close that out. So now if we refresh his page, you should see CEO and hire date. So that's how you would get the single fields. So how do we get this repeating field? So let's come over here, and we're going to just print or do a var dump for this. So PHP var dump, and we're going to just pass what they gave us. Okay, come back over here, refresh, and now you can see it's grabbing it as an array. So what we want to do is assign this as a variable. So let's say, what did we call it over here? We called it just repeating. So let's just say repeating is going to be the variable name. Repeating equals tr post field, and then repeating fields. And then for each repeating as repeat, we're just going to, in for each, we're just going to echo the array values. So echo repeat, and then based on what I'm seeing over here, it's just text and editor. So we're going to do echo that, put a break tag after it, and then we're going to echo out the editor as well. And that should be it. So refresh. We have test 1, description 1, test 2, description 2. Back over here and add a break tag after that so that it lines up. Okay, so that's how you grab a repeating field. It's the same way as if you were grabbing an array. It essentially just converts it to an array. So that's how you display on a single page. So now you see up here your URL is employees/John Doe. If we go to the employees URL, you'll see that it's using the archive page from the blog. So we're going to do the same thing that we just did. We're going to do new file. We're going to call it archive-employees.php. So the archive is very similar coding to the blog archive, but again, we're not going to be using a sidebar. We don't need pagination unless you have, hundreds of employees. Minimize this so I can see better, and then instead of having it half screen and half screen, we're going to make it where it sets into a third. Also up here, we are going to just do, we're going to echo out, not echo, we're going to do HTML archive class equals archive title, and then this is going to be employees, and then we're going to close out our H1. Now if we refresh it, we have employees with John Doe. So maybe we want to know what John Doe, what he looks like. So let's say if we had a picture of him, we could set that picture of him in here just like that. And now we refresh, we have a picture of John Doe. Maybe we also want to not include the content on this one, or we don't want to include the excerpt. So let's say we actually want to include his position title. So instead of doing the excerpt, we're going to come over here and paste out the position title with an echo in front of it. So echo position, and let's go ahead and take this card body and add the text center on it so that everything gets centered. And then we click on read more, it goes to employees John Doe. Now he has an image here based on the design that we had, which you don't necessarily need to have on here. So if you don't want to have his big picture displayed like that, you could come in here and say that you're going to do this one in a column, and then you want to have the content also displayed in a column. So div class column dash md, I don't know, let's do 9. And this way his image will be beside his name. So that's how you create the single and the archive for your custom post types. So now what I want to go over is TypeRocket also has some pretty cool functionality. I'm going to come over here and let's get rid of everything to the right of this. Inside of our TypeRocket folder, you'll see that there is a page called routes.php. With your routes, you can do get and post URLs that you can create that are custom URLs. So what I want to add is, let's try, and you can also again once find this documentation inside of here. So let's say routes is what you're looking for, and then you can set up a route file, and it tells you how to register it. It also tells you what kind of variables you can do: get, post, put, delete, any. I've used pretty much all of these, so they're all very easy to work with, and then it shows you how to how to get it using a controller. So what we want to do is display that shortcode that we created. We want to display it on its own page, and so in order to do that, I'm going to create a route. So we're going to do tr route get, and then we're going to match whatever URL I want to call it. So I'm going to call this one list, and it's going to do a controller function. So list at employee at employees. And just in case you're wondering, this is a little bit of object-oriented programming, which I've been telling y'all I'm going to do soon. I am going to do it soon. Alright, so let's create another one. We want to do list alternate, so I'm going to show you how to create a route that instead of calling a controller, it's going to call a function that you create here. So let's get rid of this, and we're going to create a function, and we can pass IDs or whatever we need into that function, but for right now we're just going to have it echo out something. So let's do return here on the alternate page. Alright, so in order to see these routes, I can go over here to /list/all, which is what I need to fix there, and then we go here. You can see that it says here on the alternate page. If we do list by itself right now, it's going to error out because this class, this controller doesn't exist, and this function inside of the controller doesn't exist. So we need to create a controller inside of our TypeRocket installation. So you would go to app controllers, and I'm just going to take, let's say, like your page controller, and I'm going to open it up, and then inside of here I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it employees controller.php. And then I'm just going to take this page controller, I'm going to copy and paste, and that's how we're going to start it. But that's not how it's going to actually look. So we don't need the models unless you want to use the models. We're not going to be using the models for this one, and we're also we're not going to be using the WP post controller. We're actually just going to be using controller, so that we need to extend our controller. In our object-oriented programming tutorial that is coming soon, I will show you how to do all of this using just vanilla PHP. So it might be a little bit easier for you to understand, but for right now, this is how you modify it. Let's create that public function list, and we're going to return do shortcode. And do shortcode is a function of WordPress that we can just pass along. And we're going to take that shortcode that we created. Let me get out of TypeRocket for a second so I can see. Includes employees, and we called the shortcode employees random. So we're going to take that shortcode and going to paste it in between the brackets. And now, if we refresh this page, currently, that's because I did not call it the correct name. So it's not page controller, it is employees controller. Now we refresh, and it says John Doe, which if we had more employees, it would do the randomization that we set up here. But for right now, it's just displaying the one employee at only at one time. Okay, so let me explain this a little bit. So inside of our routes, we said do list add employees, and then we created the employees controller and created the class employees controller, and then we created a public function called list, and then we just run our code. So essentially this is hitting the function inside of the employees controller. But that's how you would create a route. You would just go in here and you can look at their route setups here. So post, whenever if you wanted to save something to the database or something like that, you could use a post route to save information from a front end source, or something like that. So this is just how you would start creating your routes. So another thing that I want to show you before this video gets too absurdly long, which I think I'm already pushing probably close to an hour, I want to show you how to modify this theme options window. It's pretty cool, and they give you a template way that you can do it inside of the documentation. So theme options, and here, your options, your ideas. You would follow this documentation to create your own theme options. If you look inside of where they're telling you to go, vendor, TypeRocket, plugin, theme options, let's go to, let's close config. We go to vendor, TypeRocket, minimize this, plugin theme options, and then go to that source. No, plugin theme options, there is a page.php. This is where the theme options is being created at, but what they say here is to not override what's there, but to create your own version of it and call it theme options. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this page.php information, and we're going to go back to our dev drawer. We're going to create a new file, and we're going to call it theme-options.php, which is what you see here. We're going to paste what we just grabbed from it. I'm going to change one of the variables up here so that you can see that it's been changed. So company name test, and then it also tells you to add in your functions.php, you want to add this code to it. So at the very bottom of this page, or wherever you want it to add it at, you would add in that theme options.php. So now you see this. If we hit refresh, it now says company name test, and anything that we put in here, so we would do test company name, save that, and if you click on this, you see that it's kind of different. TR options field, TR theme options, company name test. That's because that is what's specifically used inside of this options file. So let's say if we didn't want it to say dev drawer testing suite anymore, let's go to our footer.php, and we're going to change this blog name, and we're going to say echo out what I just copied from the options page, and now it's going to say test company name to reflect what we've done. Okay, so let me close this down and get our routes. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I can go over real quick for this. I think that is it. So what we did today was we took the code that we created last week and made it where now we can create a custom post type. Inside this custom post type, we can set the icon for it. We can configure the metadata that is available to it. We also created the single and the archive page for it, which that's one thing I do need to do is inside of my menus. Inside the header, I'm going to re-add this link that I removed when we first started this tutorial, and I'm going to re-add it so that we can now access our employees from the database, or from the header, and then we can see the single employee as well. So that is going to wrap it up for this tutorial. I hope you learned something. If you did, or if you like what you saw, please look at our other videos, and hopefully we'll be able to help you figure out how to create your own theme. Like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to be notified every time I get ready to push out a new video. And I think that this will be it for this tutorial, and I will talk to you later.